All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to get into talking about the Steelers-Commanders game, which was probably one of the best games of the weekend, honestly. And, it was between two first-place teams. I mean, now the Commanders are, tied for first place, they're half game back. But essentially two first-place teams, two teams that are going to the playoffs, likely. And, yeah, no, it was an entertaining game. I really only got to watch this game. I really only got to watch the first half because again, I was out. But the Steelers, they scored in every quarter, 7 points in each quarter. 4 touchdowns won the game for them. The Commanders, had to kick a couple of field goals, and that kind of made the difference in the game. But the Steelers, they got the ball. To start the game, they punted, the Commanders punted. And then the Steelers went 7 plays, 70 yards down the field, and a great catch by George Pickens in the end zone on 2nd and 10 by Russell Wilson. They got a nice rapport going there to put the Steelers up 7-0. Commanders punted, and then the Steelers, for some reason, now, it would have worked. And the special teams for the Steelers is one of the best in the league. They went for a fake punt on 4th and 15, and they would have had it, but unfortunately, the pass ended up being dropped, and the Commanders got great field position, and Austin Eckler from 1 yard out scored, so that tied the game, and then more punts. Then we went to the second quarter. The Steelers went up 14-7. Russell Wilson connected with Pat Freiermuth for a 3-yard touchdown. So that made it 14-7. Commanders put together a field goal drive. Zane Gonzalez actually was the kicker in this game. Seibert is dealing with an injury, I believe. So yeah, it was 14-10, and then kind of bad defense towards the end of the half with the Steelers. They let the Commanders get down the field, and Eckler from 1 yard out scored. So they were up at the half by 3. And then they went up by 10 to start off the second half. You had a 54-yard pass play to Terry McLaurin, 16 yards to McLaurin, and then McNichols from 1 yard out scored. So that put the Commanders up by 10. But then the Steelers answered. They put together a touchdown drive. Najee Harris from 1 yard out scored. So that made it 24-21. More punts. Commanders then kicked a field goal. Russell Wilson threw a pick. He was trying to hit George Pickens. He ended up getting intercepted. Then there was a fumble that I think the Commanders ended. Yeah, Jeremy Chin ended up recovering it. Yeah, no, so Jaylen Warren's trying to score. I mean, they were going to score a touchdown, and then Warren ends up fumbling, recovered by Jeremy Chin. So, yeah, the Steelers didn't get any points out of that. Commanders then punted. And then on 3rd and 9, Russell Wilson hits Mike Williams for a 32-yard touchdown. So, and I got the picture of it here, and that made the difference. They were able to stop the Commanders on 4th down. Jane Daniels hit Zach Ertz for 8 yards, and he was just short of the line of gain. And the Steelers got the ball back, and it was 4th and 1, and they got the Commanders to jump. This was at the Commanders' 49. They got them to jump, and they got the first down, and the Steelers won. They improved to 7-2. Russell Wilson went 14 of 28 for 195 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. Jaylen Warren had 66 yards on the ground. Najee Harris, 53 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Jaylen Warren has looked better. He was a little banged up early on in the season, but he looks like the player that he was last year. So that's very encouraging for the Steelers going forward. George Pickens, 5 for 91 and a touchdown. Mike Williams, 1 catch, but it was a big one for 32 yards and a touchdown. Jaylen Warren had 2 for 29. Pat Freiermuth, 3 for 17 and a touchdown. Calvin Austin, 2 for 20. Steelers defense, 3 sacks in the game. Boswell, 4 for 4 and extra points. For Jane Daniels, 17 of 34, 202 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Austin Eckler, 44 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. McNichols had a touchdown. There was no Brian Robinson Jr. in this game. Terry McLaurin had a good game, 5 receptions for 113 yards. Noah Brown, 3 for 33. Zach Ertz, 4 for 31. And the Commanders' defense had 3 sacks. But Steelers get the win. I mean, I was saying, Mike Tomlin off a bye. It wasn't easy. But they did get the win. That's why I took them. I originally had the Commanders, but I did switch and take the Steelers in this game. And yeah, no, they are 7-2, and it's hard for me right now to see this team just fall apart and miss out on the playoffs. Like they have begun the tough part of their schedule, and they got off to a good start by winning against the Commanders. But they have not played a single team in their division yet. And the Browns, I think they will definitely win at least one of those games, maybe two. I think they should at least split with the Bengals. I think they should split with the Ravens because for some reason they give the Ravens problems. Even when, in some years the offense has struggled. Like last year the offense was not great, but they did beat the Ravens. 2021 they did the same thing. Ben Roethlisberger's last year. I know I'm saying for some reason but you look at the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and the Steelers' offense has been a problem in some years, but you know what it is? It's their defense. Their defense keeps them in the game, and then they pull it off at the end. Like last year, in Pittsburgh, they won that close game. So I think they should split, and I think the Steelers now. Both quarterbacks have played good for them. I mean, Russell Wilson, he didn't pass for 200 yards in this game, had an interception, but, had 3 touchdowns. He's doing what he's supposed to do. I mean, right now, he's got 6 touchdowns to 1 interception. So, I mean, he's been good for them so far. And, he's going to have to, I think he's going to have to elevate his game, though, if he can. Because, you got better competition coming up. They're playing the Ravens next week, which is a huge game. This is for first place. So, they got the Ravens, the Browns, the Bengals, the Browns again, the Eagles, the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Bengals. So, you got 4 more home games, and you got 4 more road games. So, I think this team is at least going to get to 9 wins. 9 or 10 wins, and they should make the playoffs. Well, they will make the playoffs. Right now, I'm going to say they will make the playoffs because it is hard for me to see them not. The worst thing that can happen is they fall out of first place and they're the first wild card team. But you know what? The Steelers fans don't want that. Steelers fans don't want that. They want this team to win the division and host a playoff game. And win a playoff game. Win a playoff game. You haven't done it in so long. And that's why you have some people that, have criticized Mike Tomlin. And, the Steelers, if they could win next week, look, you got the Bills right there at the 2 seed. I don't think anybody's catching the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are just going to somehow, shouldn't say somehow, but they're going to get the 1 seed. And then, 2 and 3 is up for grabs at the moment. The Steelers can win next week. Maybe the Bills lose to the Chiefs. Maybe you pass them there. I mean, imagine the Steelers getting the 2 seed. Then there'd be no excuses. You have to win a playoff game. They have to win a playoff game this year. But we'll see. I mean, again, you're going up against the teams in your division. And, the Browns, look, their season is pretty much over. The Bengals, their defense is not very good. The Steelers should be able to exploit that. I don't trust the Eagles. So I think the Steelers could, make it competitive there. Maybe pull off an upset. And the Chiefs at home. Look, that's a primetime game. Everybody's going to be watching it. Well, it's on Netflix. So if you don't have Netflix, you got to get it. Maybe the Steelers pull off an upset there. There's not one game. This is the tough part of their schedule, but there's not one game I look at and I say, yeah, the Steelers have no shot. I think the Steelers have a chance in all these games. I mean, even against the Ravens, who are one of the best teams. But you know how to play against them. The Chiefs. Look, at some point the Chiefs are going to have to lose. I don't know when it's going to be, but it's going to happen at some point. So, but for the Commanders, I know I've been talking about the Steelers a lot, but the Commanders, though, look, I don't think there's anything to be upset. Well, I mean, they could have won the game. Obviously, losing is not fun. I mean, their only losses, again, I mean, it's to 2 AFC North teams and then, the Bucs early on. And we'll get into the Bucs in a second, when we talk about them in the 49ers. But, the Commanders got the Eagles coming up, which is a huge game. You got Dallas and Tennessee before the bye week. Those should be 2 wins there. You come out of the bye week, you play the Saints. Look, the Saints won yesterday, and I actually did pick them. I didn't pick them to win, but I picked them to cover at least. So, you could win that, but it's in New Orleans. Then you got the Eagles again, the Falcons, and the Cowboys. So, 11 wins, maybe, for the Commanders. And this is a team that I had like 3 or 4 wins. So, but yeah, tough loss for them, but listen, they can bounce back. But again, big Thursday night game between them and the Eagles in Philly. So we'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments. So when we come back from our next break, we will talk about the 49ers-Bucks game. We'll talk about Christian McCaffrey and how he did in his return. His much-anticipated return. Now, let's be honest. We were wondering, when is he ever going to come back? And he's back. And, the 49ers, again, it wasn't easy, but they did get the win. And, we will break it all down when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.